Okay, yeah, breeding, super worms, breeding, super worms, breeding, super worm, breeding. I heard you wanna breed super worms, so you clicked on this video. Okay, I don't know what these songs are becoming now. Oh my god, what is going on? Okay, what's up, lords and ladies? Welcome back to another video on this channel. So in today's video, I really wanted to make a video talking about how to breed superworms. Now, these past couple of days, I've been really sick. As you could probably still see on my face and in my voice, I still sound a little bit congested. But luckily, I was able to record some clips way before that, and in this video I'm going to put myself together and actually show you guys how to properly breed superworms, because it's honestly something that is really easy to do, but it does take a little bit of knowledge and experience to get a good routine going. So with that being said, let's get started with this video. But before we go, we gotta zoom in, you already know, like, what's good, man? I've been sick for the past couple of days, so maybe this zoom in isn't the best angle, but sometimes the worst angle. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Oh man, but honestly, it just feels good to be back into a routine of making videos, because as many of you guys know, when you get sick, you kind of fall off the horse and all you want to do is just sleep. And that's what I've been doing for the past couple of days. But luckily, I'm feeling a lot better right now, so I'm going to put together this video for you guys. So let's go. Okay, so when it comes to breeding superworms, this is probably one of the more easier feeder insects to breed out there. However, it does require a little bit of knowledge and also steps. So the very first thing you want to do is buy yourself a couple of superworms. Now this right here is actually some of the superworms that I produce. However, I do buy some of my superworms in bulk. It's a lot more convenient for me to buy than to actually breed. Before I used to breed a ton, but now because of my routine with my reptiles and everything else going on, it's much easier to purchase it than to actually breed it. However, it's still something that I do from time to time. So the very first thing you want to do is purchase yourself at least 100 superworms, or a couple of dozen would do the trick as well. But you really want to get that routine going where you have a couple of beetles and a couple of superworms already breeding. Now this right here, the familiar superworm that everyone knows, is actually the larva. This is not what's going to be breeding the superworms and your superworm colony. These guys actually turn into beetles. Yes, so it's crazy to some of you guys who have never seen it before. I'm sure that if you have kept reptiles for a good while, you have seen it multiple times. However, when they're in a bunch or in a group like this, they tend not to turn into beetles at all. Mealworms, the much smaller ones, even though this is not a mealworm, the smaller mealworms will actually turn into beetles even if they're together. But what I notice about superworms is when you're keeping them in a group like this, they don't tend to turn into a beetle or turn into anything. They kind of just stay like this, and they actually would die of old age, or they would just die if you don't feed them in this. So it's kind of crazy. I mostly think it's a tactic, because if they do start to turn into a pupa or into a beetle, these guys are always hungry, so they will always be trying to feast on things. And if you're something that's not moving, chances are you're gonna be dinner. So that's one of the main reasons why I think they don't turn into beetles or anything when they're in a group like this. But it's something that I've not seen happen, and I've kept superworms for the longest time, and I've never seen them turn into beetles like this. Now, with that being said, what I like to do is put them individually in slots and in a container like this. Now this right here I actually found at the dollar store. It only cost me about $1, and I believe it's a mini P.O Box, but you guys could find anything, maybe those little tiny containers that you get your pizza dip with, or something basically that individually separates the superworms. And what I like to do is I would get a superworm and I would place it in each individual slot. Now this right here would actually, you know, isolate the superworms, and you're only going to be keeping them in here for about 10 days or 2 weeks. But this right here would actually help the superworm feel a little bit more safe. And what you could also do is add a little bit of their food, but they're not going to be in here for too long. And you always want to find the ones that are nice and fat. Like this one right here is nice and fat, so I'd place that guy there. But you would do this with the group of superworms that you want to basically turn into beetles. And it's kind of crazy because in 2 or 3 weeks these guys will actually start to turn, and it's kind of crazy. So basically once I got everyone, now that I got everyone in here, I would close this up. I do have little tiny air holes in individual in the individual slots. So what I would do is I would look for a dark spot like this, closet right here, and I would place it in there. It's nice and warm, it's really dark, it's also really dry, so these guys will start to turn into beetles in like 2 to 3 weeks. Now, just like those cooking shows, I actually have some prepared right here. No, I'm kidding. But as you can see, these guys have been in that dark closet for about 2 weeks. And as you can see, these guys have like started to coil up. It's like they're going into a deep sleep. All the food is gone. These guys are also starting to go into like this, like coil up into like a deep sleep. And we actually have a little tiny pupa. Now these right here are actually really cool. The pupa actually looks like a Pokemon, which is really cool. This is probably my favorite stage of the superworm breeding cycle. But this right here, in about a week or 2, this would actually turn into a beetle, which is really interesting because it'll go from turning from this larva into a pupa into a beetle. So it's almost like a butterfly, and the beetle is not like a butterfly, but it's almost like the routine that the butterfly goes through, which is really, really neat. Now, I don't want to mess around with this pupa a little bit too much, but as you can see, it is still alive. It is still moving, and it has basically developed like legs. I honestly never understood how this superworm basically could turn into later a beetle, which is insane. But what you really want to do is actually save these, so you can just keep them back inside of this until it turns into the beetle. But the beetle is basically what you're looking for. Once you got a couple of beetles, you place them inside separate containers that you could later on breed. Now, once you got yourself a couple of pupas and they've already turned into beetles, the next step that you need to do is actually get yourself one of these drawers. Now, this is the drawer that I use, but you could use different ones. I mainly got this one because it's nice and small. I could keep a bunch of beetles in this half of it, as well as the babies down here and some of the superworms up here. But you could find different ones. I know a lot of people have a different way of doing it, as well as this one was only about $3 and it works perfectly fine. I guess a lot of people use it for makeup or use it for tools or something, but here at Lord Elion's house, we use it for insects. Now, you do have to modify it a bit, but what I've done here is actually put mesh in one of them. Now, you do have to be careful each time that you open this, as things might start to drop down. So you do have to open both of them at the same time is the only thing. But right now, since nothing is there, nothing is falling off. But the whole purpose behind this is I really wanted to create something where I could keep the beetles up here, but once they laid the eggs or once they lay the babies, it would drop down to this section. Now, down here, there's actually nothing down here. This is actually one that I need to clean out, but down here, a lot of the babies as well as some of the beetle poop will actually fall down here. And it might get a little bit messy, but the babies will start to grow out of this, and that's when you could place them up here once they're a little bit bigger, and you could grow them out here, and then you could start transferring them to different types of places, like this really big one down here. But the whole main reason behind this is to create a system where you could have and take care of the beetles. It would fall down once they laid the eggs. It'll fall down here. Then after, from here, you could keep this almost like a nursery where you're feeding the babies and giving them food. And then once they're a little bit bigger, you could transfer them up here. This doesn't have a mesh, it's just a clear container. This is the only one that would have a mesh. So this is sort of the system that I have. I know a lot of people do it a little bit different, depending on, you know, where you're at. But the one thing that I notice is once you have the beetles up here, you do need to feed them often. I would keep them dry because you don't want to keep them in a high humidity, because the humidity will actually cause mold and it'll cause your whole colony to die. So what you really need to do is keep them dry, like how it is here, as well as keep them nice and cool. Don't keep them too hot, and also give them food almost daily. Once you see them run out of food, give them more food and keep going and growing your colony. Once you get babies up here that are fully grown, you could repeat the cycle where you're putting them in the container, you're growing them out, and then you're putting them back inside of here to breed, and basically you're creating a cycle. Now, as you can see in this closet, I still have the beetle colony going, so they're still breeding. I do have basically beetles in this one, beetles in this one, beetles in this one, in this one, and in that one. So they're all dropping their eggs. This right here is basically where the eggs start to grow out, but it's really cool to get a routine going. However, I will recommend that you find something that works for you, because sometimes what happens is that you try to do different things to your beetle colony, and it really depends what works for you, because sometimes they actually all die and it happens really quick. So make sure that your temperatures in your room are not too hot, and as well as not too cold, and also make sure that you're providing them food, because it could happen really fast. Now, something I wasn't going to show you guys, but since we're on the topic of breeding superworms, this right here was actually a old colony that I had that no longer is alive. Well, this is not the only colony. I actually have put all the dead ones in here, but superworm beetles only live for about 5 months. So that's something that you have to be very aware of. That once you start creating beetles, you need to be always creating more, because in 5 months or 6 months or a couple of months, they will actually all start to die. And it's just the cycle of life. So basically what you're doing here is just kind of creating a cycle, which is kind of crazy, because they start off like this. Then afterwards they will turn into pupas, then they will turn into beetles. The beetles will lay eggs for about 5 consistent months, and then after they will perish. Now, I've never really noticed how much the females actually lay, but once you keep them in a colony, they will actually be laying very often. So I don't really know 100%, but based off my experience, if you do keep maybe about 50 beetles, they should be laying at least every other week. So every 2 weeks is what I've noticed my beetles be laying, but some of them could go once a month. So you definitely need to make sure that the females are nice and fed. And there's so much different things that I still need to learn about it, but I do have a good routine going, and it does suck when they do pass away, especially around this time where it's like the fall time. But it is the cycle of life, and it is something that if you are getting into breeding, something that you're also gonna have to deal with. Well guys, hopefully this video has helped. If you have any further questions, put it in the comment sections down below, or DM me at _Lord Elion on Instagram. But hopefully this video has helped out. You definitely need to make a routine when it comes to keeping reptiles, and when it comes to breeding, you definitely need to have that routine going. But hopefully this has helped out a few of you guys who have been asking me. But with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell button, as well as hit that like button. And if you're clicking away this video right now because you think it's over, oh no, oh, what is this, huh? each time that you think I don't notice when people click off my videos? YouTube tells me everything, okay? Jesus Christ, I wasn't done talking, guys. God, you guys were clicking away so fast. But if you guys made it this far in the video, in the comment section down below, put the letter T and then your comment. That way I know that you guys have watched this video for, you know, this long. And if you guys did, that's pretty awesome, because you guys are the real ones. All those other ones that clicked off, they haven't even made it this far in this video. What if I was doing a giveaway? Like, I want to start doing that. I'm gonna start giving away like $20 at the end of my videos, and I'll e-transfer it to you guys. So maybe I'll do that in the next video, where I, you know, if you make it this far in the video, first person to comment the letter T, I'll e-transfer them $20. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do something like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So if you guys want to get paid, check out my next video. I'll probably do something like that towards the end of the video. So with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, hit that thumbs up, like button. I'm Lord Elion. Keep the blood pumping, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.
You gotta hit that notification, hit that notification, hit that notification button, baby. You gotta hit that notification, hit that notification.